Welcome to the Sporting Clays Nation podcast, brought to you by the National Sporting Clays Association. We are excited to bring you the latest news and conversations with industry leaders and professionals so you can be ready for the next time you pull the trigger. Now get settled in and get comfortable as we load up for an action-packed episode. Here is your host, Clifford Seibert.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our fifth episode. Today, we'll be talking to Sherry Kerr from the NSCA, followed by Jeff Hewitt at Lockton Affinity Outdoor, who will be discussing instructor insurance, and then finally by our 2025 Lady National Champion Shelby Moon. Here's our first segment with Sherry Kerr. Sherry, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Cliff. I'm happy to be here.
Sherry, would you mind telling the audience how and when you got started with the NSCA?
I got involved with NSCA in 2001. I was not working for them then, and they were not my client, but EasyGo was. And I was working with, I was in the business of promoting the outdoor sports, mostly the shooting sports. And EasyGo was one of my clients when they first started having a vehicle that was not a golf cart. It was, an outdoorsy vehicle that was designed for hunters. And so I sent them the idea of creating the Clays car, and they jumped on it. And so then, of course, scared me to death when they jumped right on that idea, because I didn't know if I knew what I was talking about or not. And so I got in touch with Mike Hampton Sr., who was the executive director at the time. And fortunately, when I told him who I was and who I worked with, he said, "I've been needing to talk to you. We need a Clays car." So I was thrilled. And in 2001, we took the prototypes to San Antonio. And for a lot of people don't know this, but when they would go to the national championships prior to that time, everybody had to walk. There were no golf carts and utility vehicles and that kind of thing. Everybody was walking. So we were there with prototypes in 2001 and, kind of got the wheels turning on that product category there. And then I later, in about 2007, NSCA and NSSA, I believe, became clients of mine. And so they were clients until 2015, when we were getting ready to start Clay Target Nation. We were getting ready to combine sporting and skeet magazines into one and create Clay Target Nation. And that was my background, working with the shooting sports media. So it was kind of a really natural fit. And I took on that role and went in-house as an employee. I don't work in-house. I work remotely, but I am an employee since 2015.
Since you got really involved with the communications at the NSCA, what avenues have you tried to foster and grow so you can hit all of those different target audiences within the organization?
I think the main thing is that we've tried to do a variety of things. People don't all consume information in the same way. One of the reasons we have this podcast now, some people like to read it, some like to hear it, some like to read it online, some like to read it in print, some like to read long things, some like to read short things. So I was eager to not only start the magazine for the association, but to grow other kinds of things like newsletters. I was already doing a Target Talk newsletter, which is our news type of newsletter. It has, association news, and it would have a few things like shooting tips in it, but it was mostly association news. So we wanted to grow that kind of thing. We added a lot more newsletters and email types of communications that we send out to people. And we're just really trying to find people where they are. Whatever it is that people are needing to, however it is they learn, we want them to learn that from us. And we want to help provide the kind of information that will make them more eager to keep shooting and make them shoot more and enjoy it more. I don't know anybody that doesn't want to shoot, that doesn't want to break more targets. So helping people sharpen their skills is one of the things that we're eager to do.
Gotcha. And I know that it's easy to unsubscribe from those platforms if you accidentally click the wrong button. Is there a special way if members want to resubscribe to the magazine that they have to go about doing it, or should they just go on the website and hit subscribe again?
Well, only members can get the magazine, so they can't just go and subscribe. But if they accidentally unsubscribe to that, they can contact us and we can tell them how to get back on each individual one. But we have several newsletters. We have ballots for various things, like our delegates vote on, they just did, in fact, vote on some rule book changes. And we always have someone who accidentally unsubscribes. There is a link at the bottom of every email you get from us that will be for unsubscribing. And sometimes people just don't, if they're not interested in the particular email they just got, they'll hit unsubscribe. Or they may say that it's spam, even though next week they want that newsletter or whatever that is. So basically, we just like to ask people to be careful and don't accidentally unsubscribe. And if you start to click that unsubscribe button, be aware that you may not be able to get whatever that is again until, we go through some steps to get you added back. Like if someone unsubscribes, I can't add them back because our mailing platform does that to prevent us from spamming them. So we would have to get you a link so you could resubscribe. But mainly, we just want to ask people to be careful about that. If you accidentally hit the spam button or the unsubscribe link when you didn't mean to, then you're going to be missing out on something you might be wanting to get next week.
Gotcha. And I'll include all of that pertinent information if anybody finds themselves in the dark in the communication, so they can re-sign up in the description below. I know you guys do a variety of surveys and you collect them in all your different platforms. How do you guys monitor those results? And have you noticed any recent changes that come from those survey results?
I think there are always changes from every survey that we do. We see something that we need to tweak. We find out what people did like, what they didn't like. I think a lot of times people think when they complete those surveys that it's just going into a black hole somewhere and nobody's really seeing it, and that it's just something pro forma that we do and that nobody's paying attention to them. But that is not the case. For every single survey that we send out, a variety of people see it, starting with me. And I will, compile the reports from surveys, and then everyone at headquarters that's involved, the NSCA staff at headquarters is going to see, and they're going to see how their work was evaluated. If this is say for a regional championship that's held at another club, then the club management at that club is going to see the results of the survey. And one thing we always like to do is have an open-ended question at the end so that people can just spout off about anything they want to, whether it's good or bad. They'll have an opportunity to tell us anything that we didn't ask about. It's impossible for us to ask about every single thing that might have occurred. So we want people to have that opportunity, and people should know that those comments are taken to heart. They are seen by a number of people, from our staff to our EC and our officers. They are all seeing those survey results and the comments that our members make, and they're acting on them.
Throughout your tenure with the organization, have you noticed a shift in the media? What works well to communicate with your members and what's kind of slowly falling out of favor? How have you seen that shift into kind of more modern era with computers and everything?
Obviously, social media becomes more important all the time, so that we have to have a really good social media presence, and we do. And so that's, of course, one of the main things that's happened over the past 10 years. Another thing is more and more people who subscribe, or more and more of our members, are reading our digital magazine instead of requiring a print edition, because we offer it both ways. And more people tell us, I'm reading the digital issue so you don't have to send me the print issue. And so those are a couple of the main changes that I've seen that have taken place over the past 10 years.
Fantastic. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our members before we say goodbye?
I think the main thing is that we want to hear from our members. We really want to hear from our members and our member clubs about what you need. Practically everything that we have started along the way has been because somebody asked us a question or gave us an idea. Long ago, I did a couple of newsletters for Target Talk that was just all shooting tips, and they were so popular. I heard from so many people who said, we'd like more of that. So we started the newsletter called Target Talk Lessons. That is just that kind of thing. You won't read about our association news in it. It's just lessons. And this year, one of the new things that we did this year was to start a first-timers guide to the National Championship. And that, again, was because we get so many questions from people about, how do I get my ammo? Do I need to order it in advance? When I bring my utility vehicle there, can I park it and leave it for the whole time, or do I have to take it with me every day? Lots of questions like that you don't find on the registration form or on Score Chaser. So we put together this first timers guide, and I solicited questions from our members about, what do you want to know about the National Championship? And one thing I found was that a lot of people were making up their mind about whether or not to come based on the answers to the questions that they got. And so, we answered them quickly, and hopefully some of those people decided that those were the right answers and they came. So this year we will have, or for next year, we will have the First Timers Guide available very soon so that people can start using that to help make decisions about coming to the National Championship next year. So the message here is, please let us hear from you. Tell us what you want. Tell us what you like and don't like. And we would be happy to talk to you about it.
Sounds easy enough. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Cliff. You too.
Thank you, Sherry. Our next discussion will be with Jeff Hewitt from Lockton Affinity Outdoors, where he will be talking about all things instructor insurance.
Lockton Affinity has been in the outdoor and firearm and shooting sports insurance space for the last 25 years, which has allowed us to sort of really refine products over time. And the instructor liability program we have today is one of those ones that's gone through many iterations. And I think today we have a world-class product available to firearm instructors that also works for range safety officers, whether they're paid or volunteer, whether you're volunteering for, a CMP event or 4-H, Boy Scouts. We've built a product that pretty much picks up all of the different angles and coaching that you could do for any really shooting discipline.
Jeff, can you please explain the importance of having instructor insurance?
Typically what we see, Cliff, with instructors is they're most concerned. They're probably showing up at a member club, and the member club is saying, hey, you're not a member of our club, so we want to see that you have your own insurance in place to come and use our facility to do instruction. And so most folks that will come in and talk to us will talk about, I need to provide a certificate of insurance for XYZ, sportsman's club, because I'm doing a training event there this weekend. And we'll say, okay, we can handle that as part of the process that you purchase with your policy. So general liability for the instructor really is protecting the instructor and the instructor's business for accidents that happen while the training is ongoing. So there's a combination usually of classroom training as well as, on-range shooting training, and it picks up any of those sort of accidents that happen. Could be an accidental discharge, could be a slip and fall, those kinds of things. So that's really sort of the true premises operations general liability exposure. We've taken it a step further to offer professional liability, so that if, Cliff, you were my instructor and I take your class today, next month, or next year, I'm out shooting and I injure myself or someone else, and I try to make an allegation that Cliff indeed trained me incorrectly, and I want to blame you for that, then we provide that professional liability protection as well. Not normal claims that we see, but we have seen some of those come back. In today's world, we tend to find that even though something might be my fault, I think it's someone else's, and I come back after them. So generally, we're paying some defense costs on that, and helping out our insured to get that case dismissed and prove that it was really on me, not on you, Cliff. So, and then we can also add property coverage to that. We see many of our instructors that will have, some equipment that they own, that they have in the business name they need to insure. That could be firearms, that could be vehicles to take, folks out to where they're actually going to do the training, those kinds of things. Anything from golf carts to ATVs, those kind of things. We can provide that protection there. The interesting thing that we've been able to develop over the years, and again, people can go to the association website and find the Lockton Affinity Outdoor partnership, and it'll take them to the landing page. And these are most of the instructors will be able to go through the process online and purchase the coverage. $1 million worth of liability protection, including professional, is $300 a year. So we've really sort of built a product that's state of the art, tends to be the lowest cost out there that's available. If you're looking to insure more property, we can do your liability online, and then separately our team here will handle your property exposures. But there's limits available out there, anywhere from $500,000 up to a $2 million limit. But most people are trying to satisfy a club requirement or a range requirement that's requiring them to use their facility of $1 million. And so that's what most people are buying, is that $1 million policy protecting them for $300 a year.
Jeff, are there any differences between insuring an instructor who works for the club versus an instructor who works for themselves?
One of the things that we see is the example I was giving earlier of the instructor that has his own instruction company or just his individual can buy the policy. And we also see then volunteers that might not have structured an LLC or some other type of incorporation. I'm just work at my club and I volunteer and I do some instruction at the club, or I volunteer as a range safety officer, an RSO, and I'm out there doing those kinds of things. The first thing I'm going to do if I'm a club member and I'm just doing it at my club is find out if my club insurance provides protection for me. If I'm not comfortable doing that, or if I'm not getting the answer that I want, and I'm doing the volunteer instruction at my club, potentially I come in and buy this policy, because we do pick up not only paid instructors, volunteers, range safety officers, those kinds of things are picked up there. Or certainly if I'm volunteering at my club, but then I volunteer for another event for an outside organization or at another club or an inter-club competition, and there's some gray area there, then the peace of mind I get is I come in and just buy, an instructor policy, even though I'm not a paid instructor. And we have several limit options available. People that tend to just be volunteers or RSOs will come in and maybe buy a lower limit of coverage. Rather than the $1 million for $300, they might buy a $500,000 for $220 or whatever that cost is. So they're looking at, how do I get some coverage when I'm doing this, especially when I'm doing, 4-H, Boy Scouts, other kind of youth shooting events. But we'll pick all those things up underneath that policy.
Thank you so much for being on the show today, Jeff. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience?
No, I appreciate you having us on, Cliff. And we're excited with our partnership that started late last year with the association. And we look forward to meeting many more people.
In our last segment, we'll be talking to the 2025 Lady National Champion, Shelby Moon. Shelby's going to break down what the National Championship looked like for her, including what her preparations for the event looked like. She's also going to talk about her technique and her mechanics, and what it's like to be a lady shooter. Finally, she's going to talk a little bit about what the off-season for a professional shooter looks like once the championship tour concludes. Here's our chat. Hi, Shelby. It's a pleasure to have you on. How's everything going?
It's going well. Definitely in the dead season, as we call it. No major shoots, and everything kind of calms down for a little while. So I'm enjoying that so far.
For our audience that doesn't know you, where do you live?
I'm currently out of Macon, Georgia, set up here at the Meadows, so right there in middle Georgia.
Okay. How did you first get started into shooting sporting clays?
So I actually got started with the Walton County 4-H team, and we were shooting something called modified trap, which for those of you that don't know, it's a lot more introductory than even just American ATA trap, but our 16-yard line trap. It's very introductory, but it grew from there very quickly. Pretty much as soon as I got on a sporting clays course, it blew up from there.
Did you guys do a lot of competitions and stuff on that team?
Yeah, we did more and more. When I joined the team, they were just shooting modified trap state, and then they were like, "Hey, you want to go to Savannah and shoot the state skeet and trap?" And I said, "Sure, what's that?" And they taught me how to shoot skeet and trap. And then 2 weeks later, we're down there. And then 2 weeks later, we're at nationals for 4-H. So that snowball started rolling really, really fast.
I'm sure it did. Was there a specific moment or a time where you realized, like, okay, I'm really good at this and I'd like to try and become a pro at this?
I think that came years later. Started kind of easing into some of the registered shoots here in Georgia. If you're from here, we always kind of think about the big three. Back then, it was always Seminole Cup, Turkey Shoot, and State. And started hitting some of those kind of shoots. And it grew from there. Then me going to Emmanuel College on going to shoot on their shooting team. It blossomed from there. And then I got some lessons and started getting introduced to the championship tour. And me and my dad kind of made a deal. It was like, okay, well, let's see how far we can take this.
And you took it to about the extent you can in terms of winning. Some congratulations are in order. You're the 2025 Ladies National Champion. How does that feel that all that work and all that journey is finally paid off for such a huge win?
It's it feels really good. It's obviously very satisfying to get a major win. It's been a few weeks now, and I still don't think that it's actually set in yet. We've been in so much of a go mode all year. I'm kind of like, okay, what's next? What big shoot have we got coming up? It's not been a okay, now I can relax and now I can chill. It's what's next.
How did you prepare for this shoot? Did you do anything differently? What did your practices look like?
So for this nationals, I did do it a little bit differently than in years past. Years past, I would shoot more and shoot more in practice, more days, more rounds per day. This year, I took it kind of easy. The motto this year has been, we're always on the road. And when I'm home, I'm giving lessons. So shoot a little bit, obviously the basics. There's a couple of key targets for any major tournament I'm going to. If I think I'm going to see a specific style or something heading into that event, I might try and find that and replicate it a little bit, but nothing extreme this year. It's been pretty business as usual. Shoot a little bit, keep your mindset right.
Do you think all those lessons you give help your shooting at all?
I do. I think it is a chance for me to kind of talk out some of my process as well. Like my biggest struggle, I think, for years was, hey, why don't you listen to yourself? And now I think with some of the students that I have, especially that are hitting some of the championship tour events and they're in the nitty gritty, they're in the grind, it's one more way for me to talk out how I am approaching a target, approaching a certain a buffer, if you will, or if you've had a bad round, kind of working yourself out of that. Like, okay, let's put that week aside. Now let's look forward. So I definitely think it helps. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And during the nationals, what do you think you did especially well during the competition? What were you most proud of in your game and performance?
I would say for the week as a whole, for me, which is usually quite a struggle, I was able to kind of mentally wall myself off, so to speak. I stayed right in my own little bubble pretty much the entire time, not necessarily with high stress or high tension or super laser focus. It was just nothing else matters outside of what's happening right this particular minute. As I step in the box, this is the only situation which is in my control, whether that be, thinking about other people's scores or what happened at the last shoots or what's happening in a personal life situation. I feel like I was very good at keeping all the outside stuff outside.
That makes sense. Would you say that was also kind of the biggest challenge you faced, was just dealing with all of those things, or was there anything else that was particularly hard to get through at the shoot?
I mean, nationals has always kind of been just a really difficult shoot for me to mentally get through. I mean, it's the culmination of a year's work for sure. Obviously worried about Team USA points and this, that, and the other. Everybody wants to perform well at nationals. And I feel like everything is heightened on every aspect. Your anxiety goes through the roof, at least it has for me for years, and from talking with other folks as well. Your need to end on a high note, all of those things I think play into it. And this year it was kind of okay, well, I'm satisfied with the season thus far. It's been good leading into this. So whatever happens.
And kind of like you said, you ended on a really high note. Going into that last day, you had a 5-target lead. And then by the time you were all done, you ended with a 16-target lead. Can you talk about that last day a little bit? Just how you just kept that momentum rolling. What did you do? What did it feel like?
So, I mean, it was obviously kind of even more nerve-wracking going in with a lead, because I think a lot of our default mode is to protect. You'll try to shoot not to miss, rather than going with the plan that you've already had and it's been successful. And I've struggled with that in the past. So I think pushing through and going, okay, it's still one at a time. It's still every target matters. It's still keep yourself in your little bubble and power through. It was one of those mentalities as well, where it was like, okay, just because you have a 5-target lead doesn't actually mean anything. It means that you're not starting at a deficit. That's good, but you haven't won anything yet. You still have an entire day to shoot. It is a 4-day shoot off, for lack of better terms.
Right. That course, that last day, it was probably a little bit harder than the rest of the courses. When it gets to that level of difficulty, does it make you feel more comfortable just because you get to let the gun swing a little bit more freely, or is it like a little more stressful?
Absolutely easier for me. I've always kind of been wired that way. When we see bigger targets, I'm like, okay, good. there's some wiggle room here. And I think that's one thing that I was very happy with on the 3 days prior, on even some of the easier stuff. I was able to apply the same amount of discipline and focus on some of the easier stuff and not get complacent. But yeah, when we saw that green course, I was like, okay, this might play to my strengths a little bit, because I like to move the gun and I like shooting these style of targets.
Right. And at the very end of the round, when you finished and you got off station 10, did you know you won, or did somebody have to come and tell you?
I had someone tell me actually before station 10, like we were just finishing up with 9 and somebody's like, hey, congrats. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to pretend I'm bad at math, even though I kind of know what it's looking like.
Right.
Hang on.
Didn't have to shoot the last station.
We still have 7 more targets, and I need 7 more targets in my mind. Like, why would you give up now? You're at the finish line.
Did that last station feel that, knowing like, okay, I don't need to hit any of these, but I still want to do my best? Was the tension all gone at that point, or did you maintain it?
Surprisingly, I don't think anybody was more shocked than me looking back at this. But the mentality was essentially the same as it had been the 9 stations prior, and the 3 days prior to that. It was, I need every single one of these. Process, go through your process. You know what to do here. Do your job.
Oh, that's awesome. It was truly a dominant showing. Out of the whole event, what do you have a memory you think you had that you'll always remember?
Yeah, I would say that it was probably station 2 or day 2. We were like station probably 8 or 9 or so on the red, and I shot the first 3 days with Miss Diane Sorrentino, and she saw me missing a couple, and no, I think it was day 3 actually. Yeah, it was day 3. We were on the orange. And she kind of gave me a not so gentle kick in the butt. And that was one thing that I really, really have enjoyed shooting around her and with her on a squad. She's so intense, but in a good way. She looked at me, she's like, okay, I'm your kick in the butt right now. And I'm like, okay, got it. 10-4, will do. And it was, I just had so much fun on that squad. It was a great group of people. One of my other students as well, or one of my students, longtime students, was on that squad as well. And it was incredibly fun for nationals, about as low tension as you can get. There was not for me, I'm sure other people would disagree, but there was no sense of anxiety or anything. I just felt so at peace with that whole situation. That kind of feeling of, it's just another shoot. This is fun. And especially with Miss Diane, that I will definitely remember that one for sure.
Well, that's great to hear. She's awesome. And I'm glad you had someone on your squad, because she's been there so many times before. She's won so much, and she's a competitor and always has been. I'm glad you had that rock there to kind of help you out through that.
Yeah, and I think that's what's been really cool to see over these pro squads. I've kind of watched it coming up over the years with some of these pros kind of being in each other's corner and giving that little gentle nudge, and then playing off of each other and working off of each other. And that momentum is easy to match sometimes. I think it's been especially nice this year because all the events were pro squadded. And it's really easy to stay in that, okay, you're with the best of the best. You're kind of in shoot-off mode 24/7, because, I mean, it's playing out right in front of you every single station.
Right. Especially if you're in the top squad like you were, you can kind of gauge how it's been going for everybody. It makes it especially tough, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Now
I'd kind of like to talk about your skills, your routine, and your mental game. As a shooter, what do you think your strongest skill is?
I would say it's been kind of a running joke, but in all sincerity, it's been the fearlessness. There's not really a target now that's going to intimidate me to the point of, can I actually hit this? If I see something that I haven't previously seen at a tournament, or it's kind of new to me, it's kind of solved like a math equation. There are definite knowns. Plug in what you know, solve for X. There's not really anything that freaks me out anymore.
Right. Speaking of that kind of comfortability and that fearlessness, I know all of the top shooters, they kind of have a mixed bag of how they move to the target and move with the target. So let's just say theoretically we're shooting just a standard run-of-the-mill 40-yard belly crosser. What's Shelby Moon's approach to that? How are you going to connect with that bird, and when do you pull the trigger?
I'm on the aggressive side. I do like to shoot a little bit faster. I'd say here in the last couple of years, the movement has turned more to less gun speed and focusing higher on a good setup, a good break point, and hold point being maybe a little further out. So it's kind of a pseudo collapse maintain.
Gotcha. Does it kind of like maintain at the end when you're like triggering the shot, or?
Yeah, I would say so.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Can you kind of break down how you decide that break point or break zone and your hold point as well?
As far as that crosser goes?
Just in general, what, like, in terms of like comfort, what do you want to see on the target when you decide like, okay, that's ideally where I want to break it? I'm sure it doesn't get there every time, but.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, like I said, a little bit more on the aggressive side. When I need to hang on to something, I'm going to establish break point and hold point and look point a lot further out. I'm really big on not burning all of that hard focus a little too early. I obviously want to see it best as you're pulling the trigger. So I'm trying not to stare at it too hard earlier in that flight path. But on the other end of the spectrum, your kind of medium speed targets to your faster targets as far as break point goes and when you need to attack, it's pretty heavily broken down on where do I see it the best? Is it in its highest percentage spot? How fast can I get from first bird to the second bird kind of thing? I mean, it kind of varies.
And that makes sense. And you're doing so much in your head to make these plans and making them as perfect as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, what does your pre-shot routine look like if you're trying to manage all of these moves and just these pictures and stuff?
So I'm super heavy on visual. I kind of grid off what I'm looking at as far as flight path. I'm a percentages person. If I'm going to break it at, okay, break point is 100%. Where am I starting? Okay, go back to 50, start at 60, go to 30, whatever it may call for. I am big on pointing at your break and dropping into your hold. So even if it's just holding the finger out before you're in the box, say you're second person up, I will kind of plan that out for sure. If I'm first up and I've got both show pairs, I'm going to use my hand on the first pair, and then the second pair, I'll put the gun up if I feel like I've seen everything that I need to see and taken in as much information as I need to. And I'll kind of draw that path out right before I load the gun up and call pull for that first pair. But as far as pre-shot routine between pairs, it is definitely a ongoing loop of process. I feel like there's always kind of one little thing for that particular pair, like, okay, see bottom front edge on this one, or make sure you're looking at, this particular spot on the bird. And I'll just run whatever that short little plan is through as many times as possible before each pair.
Do you keep anything consciously in your head, like as you call pull, like if you told yourself in the pre-shot, like, I want to see the front edge, do you then consciously say that as you shoot, or does your mind kind of turn off after you call pull?
I would say that it more often leans to brain kind of turns off and just let the hands and eyes go to work. I'd say there's a select few targets, some kind of more awkward presentations, like your Rabu. If I'm not chanting bottom edge in my head, I'm probably not hitting it.
Right.
But I would say that that's for a more unique situation. More often, it's just hands and eyes. Let them go to work.
That makes a lot of sense. Speaking kind of towards your personality, do you think that plays into the way you shoot? Are you maybe naturally more calm or energetic? And how do you tether that into your shooting? Do you have to kind of keep your personality at bay, or do you embrace it? What does that look like?
Funny enough, I feel like I am the walking oxymoron, so to speak, because I feel like I'm such a patient human being in everything else that I do. And when I'm calling pull for the target, I am an impatient person. So I do kind of have to battle that a little bit, for sure. I would say personality as a whole, the intensity level, it can help and it can hurt. I've been told I'm an intense human being. I'll let everybody else decide on that. I don't feel like I am, but I've been told that enough that it's now kind of a conscious thing, like, okay, you may want to chill out as you're calling pull and setting up and whatnot.
Got it. That also makes sense. It's funny how you have to fight yourself during a round to make it all work out.
Oh, yeah.
Next, I'd kind of like to talk about your individual experience as a lady shooter and kind of that perspective it brings to the sport. Just to get us started off there, what does it mean to you to personally represent women at the highest level?
It's a crazy big honor. People mention previously, like Miss Diane Sorrentino, who's been there and done it all. Desiree Edmonds, obviously, when I was first coming up, she was, I think, the dominant name in ladies sporting clays. So being able to just be on squads with these ladies and be around them and be competitive with them is a huge honor. And as well as this new kind of group of us that have come around here in the last 4 or 5 years, I'd say it's a dominant little group that I'm not counting any of them out at any given time. So as far as representing the ladies, I'd obviously love to see it grow more. I feel like it's grown during my duration with the sport, especially over the last 8 or 9 years, and hope to see it get even bigger and even better going forward, for sure.
It's become so much more competitive and so much harder for y'all to win because there's just so many awesome lady shooters. What would you attribute that to, that just level of depth?
I think it's the same thing that you could say about any of the better juniors that have come around, any of the just regular old seniors as well. A lot of these ladies are now spending as much time on the championship tour as a lot of the men have. Got more years behind us now. I mean, this was my 9th nationals. I think I heard Desi say that it was her 20th or something. So, I mean, a lot of us are now putting some actual years behind it. And I think we're getting better information than we have before. I like the open line of dialogue between a lot of the ladies, that we can kind of chat about what works for us and what doesn't work. And now obviously being on these pro squads, I think you're kind of forced to be even bigger, even better every year.
And speaking of all those kind of lady legends you talked about, were there any in particular that kind of took you under their wing and you got to learn a lot from them as you started learning how to compete and just shoot at such a high level?
I think I would say I took some lessons with Desi. She came up here to the Meadows and did some group lessons, her and Zach, and with my coach originally, Kevin DeMichael. I would say she definitely helped feed me some of the information that I needed to hear, especially there in the beginning. Miss Diane's been great to talk to. I feel like I've gotten a pretty good friendship with Karen Miles. I think that camaraderie has been really, really beneficial for me. I would say take me under their wing, not necessarily, but it's like I said, open line of dialogue. Could call and talk about anything if needed, for sure.
Well, that's wonderful. For all the ladies and girls that want to be in your shoes one day and want to be super successful in the sport, do you have any advice you could give them?
Yeah, I mean, obviously put the rounds through. If you can join one of the youth teams and whatnot and get some exposure, start hitting some of the bigger tournaments, for sure. But I think having a coach that has been there, done it, gets it, knows the way that this game is played to its highest level is definitely high on the priority list. I think you have to have someone kind of help guide you along and give you the space to grow on your own as well.
Good coaching. It goes a long way, for sure. What do you think some of the biggest challenges are for women in the sport?
There's a million different things that you could say. And I think the biggest battle we're fighting is just lack of numbers right now. I mean, it's routinely about 10%. It's been inching up, but the ratio is staying pretty close to the same numbers. I mean, I've seen it creep up from, 9% to 10% a little bit, maybe even closer to 11 now. I haven't checked it lately, but I think we're fighting lack of numbers a little bit and just life in general. A lot of the ladies that I knew that were shooting when I was in high school and whatnot, and even in college, they're by mid-20s starting their life. They're starting their career or their jobs. And the same could be said for obviously a lot of the male competitors as well. But it seems like that many more ladies are backing off quicker due to whether it would be having kids or just different life paths. So kind of routinely joke, but it is real for a lot of these ladies. Life gets in the way of shooting. As far as the last 7-8 years of my life has been, it's shooting gets in the way of life. So
do you think there's something the clubs or organization could do better or more to support these lady shooters or see better retention? As
far as new ideas, I don't necessarily have anything off the top of my head, but I feel like there's been some positive changes over the last several years. The Winchester introducing the Ladies Cup and putting some actual prize money on the table for the ladies has been huge. Seeing more things like that and continuing that I think is especially important. Here recently, back in May, the Meadows hosted the Shooters Championship, and there was a lot more payouts with concurrent and class. So they had class concurrent payouts. So your run-of-the-mill 11, 12-year-old that's been shooting for the last couple of years and has been doing well, she has a chance to get some money in her class as well as in her concurrent, so she could be a sub-junior lady and win a little bit of money. I mean, it's I think it's good confidence building. I think that was a great idea they set up, and maybe see some more clubs do something like that. So yeah, that would be really good.
Now, kind of as the season is all wrapped up, I'd like to talk about the off season with you. What does that look like for a pro shooter in terms of practice, the adjustments you want to make for next year, and just your downtime?
I think for me, it is definitely a closing of one season in its entirety, and that means putting the gun down for a little while. I mean, we shoot 10, 11 months out of the year. You've got to have some downtime. I think it's good to, even if you end on a high note, and I've had some seasons that ended just horribly and some that ended really, really well. I think regardless of that, it's okay, put that to bed, put that to rest for a little while, spend some time around some family, take a break from the constant on the road travel mentality for sure. I think it's healthy. It makes you look forward to the beginning of the year that much more. So I mean, usually by mid-January, I'm pumped to get started and really ready to get down to Florida in that warmer weather and get started back shooting again.
Do you start giving a lot more lessons personally during this time? How many days a week are you coaching?
I would love to see more, but like I said, a lot of my students are shooting some of these bigger tournaments now, or they're shooting for a high school league in the fall, and they'll be starting SCTP up in the spring. I tell them to take a little bit of a break too. So I'll try and pick up some hours here at the Meadows and just kind of fill in the gaps where needed. I would love to give as many hours of lessons as possible, but I think it's important for all of us to take a break. Some of the first year shooters, I'll have them come back and see me a little bit more routinely, just to build on that, so we don't forget what the heck just happened over an 8-week break or something over the holidays. But yeah, no, I think everybody needs to chill out a little bit on it, and everybody's different, sure, but I'll usually start people right at the top of January, getting started for whatever season they have coming up.
Gotcha. Do you exclusively coach at the Meadows, or do you travel around at all?
I'll travel around a little bit. We'll go over to Old Hudson Plantation it's here in Georgia as well. It's about an hour and a half from here. Some other clubs in Georgia as well. Would love to travel more, whether that be to Florida or South Carolina or wherever, and it kind of expand that in the years going forward. But right now, this is the home base.
Gotcha. And if people want to come to you, can they shoot at the Meadows without being a member or anything like that? Can they be your guest and come and shoot and get a lesson from you?
Yeah, absolutely. Meadows is open to the public Wednesday through Sunday, but we can certainly work something out any day of the week as a guest of mine on your Mondays and Tuesdays or after hours, whatever. Absolutely.
Awesome. And as we kind of start to wrap up here, is there any sponsors or supporters you'd like to recognize for help make your national championship win possible?
I think the first people to thank on the top of the list are, of course, my parents. I think my dad, especially, helping carry me all over the country for years and whatnot. He doesn't travel with me anymore near as often, but giving me the tools necessary to set out on my own, I definitely give them full credit for that. And then as far as industry sponsors, Cree Golf International, Castellani, Game Boy US, and Pure Gold.
Awesome. And my last question for you before we part ways is, what are you looking forward to most for next year? What's circled on your calendar?
Well, I got a couple of things now. I feel like I've been checking some stuff off the list over the last couple of years as far as some wins goes. Super high on the list is a World Feed Task. I'm super stoked about going to Portugal and representing the team there, and then also representing the team over in San Antonio for the World English next year, for sure.
Those will be two great shoots. Well, congratulations on your national championship. That's awesome. And thank you so much for joining the show. It's been a great interview.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for listening. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.
The The information, opinions, and advice contained in this multimedia content, including any third-party sites listed or linked in such multimedia content, collectively the content, represent the views and opinions of the speakers and do not necessarily represent the views, standards, policies, or opinions of the National Skeet Shooting Association, the National Sporting Clays Association, or any of their respective employees, members, volunteers, agents, representatives, or affiliates, collectively the association parties. The mere appearance of the content on the site does not constitute an endorsement by any of the association parties. The content has been made available for information and educational purposes only. Unless specifically stated otherwise, none of the association parties endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in the content, and none of the content should be referenced in any way to imply such approval or endorsement. The association parties assume no responsibility for and hereby disclaim any and all liability to any party for any direct, indirect, implied, punitive, special, incidental, or other consequential damages arising directly or indirectly from any adoption or use of the content, which is provided as is and without any warranties. For further clarity, the association parties make no representation or warranty with respect to the accuracy, completeness, applicability, effectiveness, fitness, or completeness of the content, including with respect to their compliance with applicable law.